once again to my weekly podcast. This is Pastor Richard Seafried, and I want to begin by just thanking a lot of you that have been praying for my wife and I for this past month. We've been sick with COVID and just trying to get over the symptoms of it, and we've heard from a lot of you that you've been praying for us and just remembering us and thinking of us, and that means a lot. So I just want to begin by saying thank you for your prayer support. The purpose of this weekly podcast is to, and it's revealed in the title to the podcast, Timely Truths for Troubled Times. What I'm attempting to do is to tie together biblical prophecy with things that are happening in our world today, current world events. And as most of you know, the big news right now, as far as world events, is the threat of Russia. They're invading Ukraine. Over 100,000 Russian troops are lined up on the border there with Ukraine and threatening an invasion. And if that happens, of course, it's going to really set off what could be a real catastrophe, almost a new world war. And so this is a scary situation that's going on. We don't know how that's going to turn out, and I'm certainly not here to predict whether they're going to invade or not. But I do want to talk about something we know for sure as far as Bible prophecy regarding Russia. In the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38 and 39, we have a description of a future Russian invasion. Now, this invasion that's described is not into Ukraine, but rather into Israel. And can you imagine what that will set off the day that invasion takes place? And so a careful reading of Ezekiel 38 and 39 reveals the following facts. So let me just kind of outline for it. First of all, Russia is identified for sure. Son of man, set your face against Gog in the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach, that's Moscow, and Tubal, and prophesy against him. And say, thus saith the Lord, behold, I am against you, O Gog, chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. So right off the bat, we learn that Russia is not popular with God. God says, I'm against you, Russia. Verse 4, I will turn you back and put hooks in your jaws, and I will bring you forth and all your army, horses and horsemen, and all them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them. Now, it's not surprising that Persia, which is Iran, is linking up here with Russia in this invasion of Palestine, and specifically the nation of Israel. We certainly can envision that happening, can't we? And so we see the nations that align with Russia. Then we move down to verse 13, and we see what the Western nations do. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, that's England, and all the young lions thereof, that's the United States, referred to as a young lion of England, shall say to you, are you come to take a spoil? Have you gathered thy company to take a prey? Well, here's typical Western United States political action, isn't it? They don't do anything except object verbally and say, Russia, are you come to take a prey in Israel? And so that doesn't speak well of really our country and the resolve we have to defend Israel, that's for sure. And then down in verse 18, we see God's wrath is stirred up against the Russian army. It shall come to pass at the same time when Gog shall come against the land of Israel, says the Lord, that my fury shall come up in my face. Kind of a description of God getting red in the face. And in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. So God looks on this Russian invasion into Israel with great anger and fury. Now, the next part of chapter 38 describes how God destroys the Russian army and those nations that are aligned with Russia. And listen to this, God supernaturally intervenes in this battle. Verse 22, I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands, and upon the many people that are with him, an overflowing rain, great hailstones, fire and brimstone. Thus I will magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations that I am the Lord. So what God is doing here is when the Russians invade Palestine and these other nations with Russia, God actually sends hailstones and fire and brimstone down from heaven to destroy these armies. What an amazing prophecy that is. How extensive is God's defeat of the Russian army? Over in chapter 39, it says, I will turn you back and leave but a sixth part of you. A sixth part. 5/6 of the entire Russian army will be destroyed on the mountains of Israel. Listen to this description. Thou shalt fall upon the mountains of Israel, thou and all thy bands, and the people that are with thee. So God does a miraculous military intervention here and destroys this invading army. Now, what's the reason why God does this? Well, here it is in verse 7. So will I make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them pollute my holy name anymore, that the heathen or the nations shall know that I am the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. God defends Israel, but more than that, God glorifies his name in this coming battle against Gog and Magog. Well, again I say I don't know how this current problem with Russia is going to turn out, but one thing I know for sure is that the coming battle involving Russia and Israel, God himself is going to take care of that. Years ago, when I was a young man just starting in ministry, and I was an assistant pastor in Cumberland, Maryland, there at Calvary Baptist Church, an evangelist came into town and had a big rally at our fairgrounds, the Cumberland Fairgrounds, and his name was Dr. Jack Van Impe. Since then, he's gone on to have a great television ministry. But Jack Van Impe preached on this passage, and the amazing thing about that is he had committed to memory all of Ezekiel 38 and 39. He could quote these two chapters word perfect in his preaching. After I went to Glen Burnie and then came back to Cresaptown, we had Jack Van Impe back to the Cumberland Fairgrounds once again for a great evangelistic crusade. And what a ministry he's had over the years. Well, listen, I hope you have a great day. Let's just pray for our country, and let's just pray for this whole terrifying situation over there in the Ukraine, and just trust that the Lord somehow will work this out. Well, God bless you. Have a great day. See you again next week.